am I doing this to check off a box?
I'm voting Democrat.
In practice, we're more pagan.
Whether I'm rich, whether I'm poor, whether I'm free, whether I'm in jail. But what would the content be? What does God ask you to do that you're so adamant about not doing?
Ladies and gentlemen, we are finally back. It has been a very long time. I debated even on calling this like season 2. It's been a couple months since I've posted one of these, but I was reminded while reading a book by Dr. Jordan Peterson called 12 Rules for Life. And there's a chapter in his book that talks about set your house in perfect order before you criticize the world. And I'm, for some reason, that chapter popped into my mind. If you couldn't tell, we're in a different space right now than any of the other videos that we put out in the past. And I was thinking, I can't set my house in perfect order if I don't even have a house. And so I was in between two different living situations, and in the midst of all that, had some family emergencies, had to be traveling back and forth across the country. And it was just really like my house wasn't in perfect order. And on top of that, everything that I was posting was just like only criticizing the world. And I realized that I was being more reactive when it comes to culture and not proactive. And that's the new goal for how we're going to move forward. Is we're still going to do, if like big things that I think are worth talking about, if they happen, then we're still going to talk about them. We're going to have the just talking head reacting to videos and things in culture that are happening, because I do think that that's important. But the primary focus moving forward is going to be being proactive and having conversations that matter, having conversations with real people about real issues, so that way we can affect culture and we can change culture instead of just like whining and complaining that culture is changing. It's like that's not going to fix the problem. Like, we can point out problems, but we have to be the solution to that. So that's going to be the goal moving forward. I'm super excited to get this started back up. I'm with my good friend Joseph Webb. It's been a while, man.
In a minute.
We met in, I think, February.
Yeah.
Sometime around that second semester, spring semester of college. And it was really just by accident. I was at a Bible study, and a friend of mine asked if I was going to an FCA meeting. And I was like, our school has FCA? That's cool. I didn't know that. I guess I'm going on Monday.
Yeah.
So that's how I ended up being there, and ended up meeting you. And you and one of the FCA leaders at the time, Jonathan,
Mm-hmm.
You two both co-host a podcast called It Gets Better. And I just wanted to start out letting you kind of introduce yourself and explain like what is It Gets Better? Where was like the inspiration behind creating something like that? Because I've been wrestling back and forth with like just creating like a foundation for why this exists.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm fascinated in hearing conversations with hearing ideas from other people about why do they create, why do they feel like that they need to add to culture. So yeah.
So yeah, I like you said, name's Joe, and I do co-host a podcast with my good friend Jonathan Casey. And yeah, so the inspiration for the It Gets Better podcast. So to make a short story long, it kind of not the podcast started off as a joke, but the name did.
Okay.
So we had a group of guys on the football team that would always be like, something bad would happen. It'd be like, it gets better, bro. Just know it gets better. I'd be like, bro, like, stop it. But then it kind of like, after a while, it was like, you would say it, but then it's like a habit. Okay, yeah. It gets better, right? Like, it gets better. And then Jonathan and I kind of bounced the ideas off each other. Like, he had thought about doing something like a podcast.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, yeah, like a podcast would be awesome. And it was like, I always thought about it, but what would the content be,
Mm-hmm.
And what better content than talking about the gospel, right?
Right. Yeah.
So now to make it more not theological, but more like what is the foundation of why we made it? Just understanding that like we talk about when we see the world and we hear in the gospels like we're all born sinners, right? And we all have this sin nature, but when it comes to the gospel, like it gets better.
Yeah.
Because all those sins can be made clean, right?
Right.
And we can be washed clean and made whole in Christ Jesus and the sacrifice he made. So kind of funny at first, but then it holds a lot of weight though, because it truly does get better. So
yeah, with the like, it's not gonna get perfect here, and like we're not even promised that tomorrow is gonna be better than today. Like there are hills and valleys, there are mountaintops, mountain peaks. One of them being the FCA mission trip.
Yep.
That was a mountaintop. That was a peak.
Yeah.
And then, like, I'll be honest, a week and a half afterwards, I was in a rut, like at like almost, I don't want to say rock bottom, because things could always be worse, and it definitely wasn't. But just like to be that high, just like in a community of people that are like our one purpose of being in Alabama, what was to evangelize, was to tell the world, tell that region about Jesus, and not just like we were there to teach kids how to do sports God's way, but like the conversations we were having just on like a random beach with random people, and like even outside of doing the sports. I was listening to, I believe it was episode 6 of your guys' show today, and what was his name? Oh my goodness, the kid who was doing the basketball,
Aaron,
yep. Yeah, and just like I think on a fundamental level, like our conversations with him meant more than just doing sports God's way, and it meant more than just like doing layups,
right?
And like that's you saw the most joy in his eyes when we went to go do those basketball drills, and he was just having a lot of fun. But like the you could tell that he was just happy to talk to people and who would want to hear him, because without going like too much into it, because I'm not too terribly sure what the situation is there, but like he wasn't the most outgoing kid at all, but I think that's one of the reasons we evangelize too, is because like it has a lot more to do with us. In the short term, it has a lot more to do with us than it has to do with the people we're talking to, because we can't save people,
right?
And so these conversations, they're not gonna, most of the time we're not gonna see the fruit of that. But it's like we have these conversations, and then we feel like, okay, now we can have another conversation and another conversation, and now now after this many conversations, I'm realizing after a bunch of questions, I'm not as proficient in the word as I should be. So I need to start reading more, and maybe I need to start praying more, because I'm not hearing the answers because I'm not asking for them. And so just like evangelism is so important, and that fire, I feel like, kind of burned out, because we were on this mountaintop, and then get back across the country, and it's just like now everybody's split up, and now we don't have that community who's all focused on doing it together. And like it was hard to find a new community, because everybody split up and went their separate ways, and just remember that we're not meant to do this alone. And I was thinking about too, you mentioned in one of the episodes today that it's not popular to be sold out for Christ on campus. And it really made me think, because when coming to the school, I thought that it would be more of like an okay thing because it was a Catholic school, and it's just not. And I have so many stories to tell about like just like being on the football field and um like I won't cuss, and like I'll get like just like openly made fun of for like the different like goofy alternative words that I use, and like I just kind of wanted to hear your, if you have any like any stories that stick out to you of just like that notable, just like, okay, I'm on like a religious campus, but it just doesn't feel that way. Like, do you have any experiences like that that are just like on the top of your head, like, wow?
I'd say like just the promotion of said, like, I don't want to say religious events, but just religious events, right? We have things go on, and it's like we're supposed to be a Catholic Christian school, and it's not super like people don't want to go, you know? And it's still like, yes, that is the overlying theme of what it's supposed to be, but it's not necessarily upheld. So do I have a certain pinpoint story? No, but it is definitely something that is seen throughout just the campus, not only like in athletics and just anything, you know.
Yeah. So, to kind of piggyback off of that, it's not popular on campus, but it's even like less popular in media, and I I noticed that after I would start to post like these reels on my Instagram page about like doing worships at different places, and without fail, every single time that I post one of those, I lose followers, and it's so interesting to me because like I shouldn't be worried about that,
Right.
but in my I want as many people to see this as possible. Like I want this to change lives. I want this to affect culture. But every time I post something like this, I'll just like log onto my account and notice that I'm down, not a lot, but like 5 or 6 people just were like, you know what, I don't need to, I don't need this in my life.
Yeah.
And I was thinking about that when I was listening to your guys' podcast and talked about the first channel got deleted. Or,
yeah.
and I was really curious, like
Yeah.
what happened there.
So this is that's you really have to ask Jonathan about that, but I can give you a quick synopsis. Okay. So from my point of view, we're sitting there waiting for the video to upload. Episode would have been 2, maybe 2 or 3 at the time. It might have been 2.
Yeah.
Waiting for episode 2 to upload. But then at the time, so Jonathan had he had switched over his original YouTube to the IGB YouTube, right? So, but then at that point, he wanted to make 2 separate YouTubes to still have his own YouTube channel.
Right.
So we were under the impression that it had created the 2 separate channels, and we were fine. So he deleted one of the channels, thinking it was like a duplicate. We were fine. And instead of it just deleting that channel itself, it deleted both of them. Okay. So and it's funny because we don't even have, we cannot retrieve those at all.
Yeah.
Like he deleted them off his phone once he uploaded them.
Yeah.
I never had them downloaded.
Yeah.
So like episode 1 and 2 just Dead Sea Scrolls, man. They're just
because that makes perfect, like when I get an overflow of content on like, not even, goodness, if I had the content that I have like saved on an SSD on my phone would overheat and die. Like right. It'd just be so like, yeah, why would you, if they're in the internet, they're in the internet forever, so like, well, why not? That's okay. Yeah, that makes me feel a little bit better because I was asking that because I also started thinking about, Jonathan was asking about the like how to use copyrighted Christian music in your videos, and I was like, no way they got their channel taken down for copyright.
For that? No.
I was like, okay, time out, because I've never heard of a Christian artist like being like, yeah, take that down.
Right.
Normally, like I used for our worship group, we posted like a travel vlog for something we did in Pennsylvania, and in the background of the entire video, um, we had Praise Carolina version in the background, and obviously YouTube picked up on that, and they're like, "Whoa, you can't use that. You don't have permission for it." I'm like, "Actually, I do," and but I never heard of an artist being like, just take it down entirely. Like sure, if somehow, some way, sometime in the future, like we'd have to pay royalties,
right?
But like not fully taken down. So that's good. That puts that to rest, because I was really concerned.
Had you nervous for a little bit?
Yeah, I was like that's man. Okay, that's good. So I guess like after listening to you guys a bunch, y'all shouted me out in 2 different episodes. I was like the 2 episodes that I listened to specifically today, I heard by name. I was like oh, but like that I was thinking about, because every time like it was almost like every 15 minutes Jonathan was talking about like, I want to do this forever. Like I want this to be like I don't want this to stop now. I want to continue doing this forever. Maybe this could be a full-time job. I heard him say a couple of times. And it's like, and I've been battling with that too, of like, how do you balance like trying to grow your audience, because this can't be a full-time thing ever if you can't grow your audience. And how do you manage like, just like, I guess mentally and spiritually, like trying to grow your audience, but at the same time like maintaining a sense of humility and being like it's okay if this gets 5 views, because maybe one of those people that watched that were like positively impacted. Because I've just been like, because when I was posting stuff more frequently, I would see a video that like, we had one month where we did over 10,000 views, and I'm just like, I'm gonna be rich from this. I didn't make any money, by the way, but like, it was like, I was like, this is awesome. And then the next month we did like 200, and I'm just like, how do you mentally handle that like back and forth of like, one, it's a ministry, but 2, it's not sustainable if it doesn't reach people.
Right.
So yeah, how do you mentally like go through that?
I'd say the main thing is just understanding that and you know this, we don't do what we do for people to tell us we did good. You know, like, is it a byproduct? Possibly, yes, but so is people telling us that they don't want to hear it. You know, so it's like you live for the cheers, you're gonna die by the boos, right? If that's what your identity is put in. So understanding that whether you get, like you said, you get 5 people that watch it, like it, share it, whatever the case may be, or it's 1 million, like it was shared. Like God will never frown upon you for sharing the gospel ever, sharing his word ever. Yeah. And understanding that, like, in whatever volume, however many people see it, however many people don't see it, you know, it's still like that has nothing to do. And that's you talked about it earlier. Like, sometimes you get to plant a seed and you may have no idea if that seed comes to fruition ever. Yeah. And that's rough though. And it's tough. Cause you talk about the mental part of it, like, cause something in us is like, oh yeah, like, I would definitely like somebody to be, oh, that was awesome. That was dope. That was, but like understanding that, hey, like, God was pleased with what I said. It was sound. And that's another thing, just coming from a place of, and we tried to make, and we wanted to make more episodes, and I guess not to ramble, but we wanted to make more episodes in a short period of time before, because this started like February, and then graduation, you know, all through this time frame, and then through the mission trip. But we wanted to make sure we were sharing from a place of overflow, and we weren't scraping from the bottom of our barrel in our spirit. You know, like, so we were never felt empty after sharing, because people can never pour back into us.
Yeah.
that they don't have that power to pour back into us. God at the end of the day is who gives us that overflow. And as long as we're sharing from that, there's increase in that. So
Yeah. Because I was thinking about this. We went and my church, we went to middle of nowhere, Missouri, and did a youth camp there. And I'm like, it was the first night. If you looked in the planning center, it was a song, and then one of the leaders there was supposed to give like a call to worship, and then another song. And the leader had no idea that she was supposed to give a call to worship. Like, she was just like, "What? That's supposed to be me?" And so the main guy in charge of the team was like, "Hey, Johnny, can you do it?" And I'm like, "Oh my goodness, I haven't prepared for this." But I was like, "Sure, yeah, let's do it." And so I'm sitting. I've got like 15 minutes to put all this together, and I like I went through. We were singing. We were going into Holy Forever, and I went to Revelation chapter 4, where it talks about the different types of, I guess, angels that were surrounding the throne, and that day and night they're singing, "Holy, holy, holy is the Lord God Almighty, who was and is to come." And like I found this, and I was like, this is a word, like, you know, and I'm like this is awesome. And I left the stage after doing that, feeling like proud of myself, and I'm like waiting, like, all right, which leader's gonna tell me I did a good job? And like it didn't happen, and I was like sad about it. I was like, darn, like nobody told me good job. Like I was really proud of that one, and I'm just like, I was proud of, no way, like why was I proud of that one? It's just like so like heart-wrenching, because I was just like what business do I have being proud of like the word of God as if it's mine? Like Revelation, to start out with, is a hard book to understand. I don't understand it. I'm just reading it, and like letting the words fall in the hearts of people who want to hear it. And then for some reason I felt like I should be proud of it, like it was my own thing, and it was just like it sucked. And like it's good to hear from somebody who like has good perspective on it, because I was stuck, and it wasn't until 2 nights later when I was like scheduled to do the color worship where I'm just like, okay, this can't be about me, like at all. I need to be so intentional about this not being about me, like, man. And it's a hard balancing act, trying to, because we are human and we're gonna mess up. Um, but yeah, it was scary, and like I want to know, like, where does your foundation come from? What's your kind of story where you go from growing up to now you are able to, like you said, overflow, and put out content, talk to people, share the gospel, and not feel like, I guess, empty afterwards, like you're so like grounded. Where does that come from? Like, what's your story, I guess?
I'd say like, so grew up in church and knew of God, knew the sacrifice Jesus had made, but it wasn't like, and it may come to a surprise, but it wasn't really until like December and maybe January of this year, to when I was really like, I know about this, but like I gotta, like, there's more to this that I'm not getting from this, and I gotta get it. Yeah. So like, personally, like, I haven't read through the Bible fully ever, but I'm doing a devotional right now. So far, like, I've read through a decent amount of books in the Old Testament, and then just finished up the gospel. But even in that short span of time, what is it, June? Even in that short span of time, there are so many stories that I think I've heard, right, that I just gain new insight on by actually going in and reading it myself, you know, and dissecting it. And a lot of it comes from just not reading it, but taking notes on what you read,
Yeah,
you know?
Yeah.
And you see a lot of times, like, I think really the constant theme that really makes me like take myself to the best of my ability out of the equation when sharing is like it talks about in the Gospels, like no man can boast about salvation because what is the price that Jesus paid for us, right? We can't boast about that. But the same way that nobody can boast in God's power. It talks about, I can't tell you exactly what, Old Testament.
Yeah.
But Gideon's army went from a lot to a few.
Yeah.
And why did that happen? God said, I made this happen so that the Israelites couldn't say, we did this. We're super strong.
Yeah.
But it was only by the power of God that we were able to get through this. And just really just relying, and it's so cliche, but like understanding that there are things that and it comes from a place of just knowing you can't do them and being humble enough to say, I can't do something. This is where I'm weak at. Lord, meet me here. You know?
Yeah.
Like I would love to hear good job for this. And I feel like oftentimes, like, there was a pastor that talked about this, and I'd have to look up his name, but he said he preached 2 sermons. His first sermon, he said he prepared. First sermon was so bad. He said it was so bad. He got up there, he was stuttering, he was like, man, that was so bad. Like he vowed he would never preach a sermon like that again, right? The second sermon, the notes were crazy. He said he went up there and he preached. Holy Spirit fell down in there. Then he checked the numbers, I guess, a few months later, like on how many people brought their lives to Christ, right? More people brought their lives and gave their lives to Christ in that first message where he thought he himself didn't do a good job, you know?
Yeah.
And in the second sermon, he said, oh, I did this. I preached this such a good word instead of the Lord allowed me to do this. Yeah. In my weakness of me stuttering and where I felt I was weak at, God still showed up because it is not by my strength that brings people to Christ. All I'm called to do is just be a vessel to share.
Right.
You know? I don't get the increase of that. So just, that's kind of,
Yeah. I was, when you talked about how you hadn't read through the full Bible start to finish, me neither. I'm still going through it. And like something that fascinated me is I was thinking about like this idea of like letting God use you as a vessel. And I started to think about something like about Jonah, like, and how like he refused to let God use him as a vessel, did it out of reluctance, and then went and just like and then when he was done, he was mad that the Ninevites got saved. It was like, and oftentimes I feel like we look at that story and we're just like what, why was he so mad at why yeah, bad Jonah. I would never do something like that. Like I would never look back at something that God used me for and then just be like mad at it. But I feel like we miss so much by not putting ourselves in Jonah's shoes enough. Like we do a good job at like these Veggie Tales cookie cutter sermons where we're just like, yeah, like what are you running away from? What is God telling you to go towards? And you're just like refusing to say, here I am, Lord, send me. And then I read I was like, I've never read the book of Micah. Like I've read Jonah, but I've never read Micah. I've never read Nahum, never read Habakkuk. And I start to go through, and I started with Jonah. I started in really random locations. I was like, we're just going to send it. And then if you go into Nahum, Nineveh gets destroyed. And like it says because it was a prophecy from years prior. So like how many times I can't help but think like God will use us. We'll be mad that God uses if that makes sense, because like we'll be mad that it wasn't through our undoing. And like Jonah, I feel like if we were all put into his shoes, would probably be equally mad because he's read this prophecy. He's definitely well versed on like Nineveh's going to get destroyed. And so when God told him to go there, he was probably just like, for what? This is a lost cause. And it wasn't a lost cause because the people there did get saved, but then eventually years later they turned back to their wicked ways and got destroyed. But like how many times in our life do we like just either get mad that God used us because we're like, oh, I thought that I did bad in that situation, like I wasn't glorified through it, or like there are some. How many times do we get on our high horse and we never go to where God tells us to go because those people are just like those like I'm not gonna go to that part of the town and evangelize because I don't want to get shot, even though like you really have no like excuse.
Yeah.
And it's just like reading the Bible is it's important to not read yourself into stories that you're not a part of, but to not take yourself out of stories that do apply to you.
Right.
And after the mission trip, when we had that big mountaintop experience, I want to know just because I'm genuinely curious. Did that happen to you? Did you stay on that mountaintop, or was there kind of like a valley that you ended up in? And if there was like, how has that been? Because I haven't really talked to anybody like that much about the mission trip since it happened. So.
Okay. And guys, when he talks about the mission trip, it was amazing. So when he talks about this mountaintop, like it's not like spiritually, yes, like to be all of us being in that one place with no outside interference, just focusing on the presence of God being among us. That was amazing. But to answer your question, like, and I guess I never really thought about after, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like the mount, yeah, I was up there for like, and I wrote it for a little while, but I think, and not that I am upset at myself for it, but I feel like I've definitely slacked after, because knowing that is what it looks like at its best, why not continue striving for that? You know? And I definitely, and that's like, I've been convicted of that a lot lately, because there were things we were doing on the mission trip, and then now it's like, was I doing that to just say like, oh, I'm there doing this, you know, guys, right? Or was it genuinely something that came out of my heart to say, Lord, I'm giving this to you, like, and I want to continually do this? And one thing, and when I say that, we're talking about like even just reading the Bible and just having, because we were having devotionals every morning.
Yeah.
But like that being a consistent thing, and I understand like God won't get upset with you if you don't do a devotional in the morning. But I think it's all about the heart posture about that. Like, was he put last? You know, like what did you decide to do before that? Before you know, and I feel like, so definitely there, peak was amazing, but definitely after, I definitely had to do some searching in my heart, like what was my reasoning behind, you know, doing some of this stuff.
Because the rut that I was getting in was like, and I don't know if this ever happens to you, where like I realized like, I don't know, like I started to think like, what am I doing this to check off a box? Like am I reading this chapter in the morning just so I can say that I did it? Like, cause it, like we know in our heads that it's not the works that save us, but like how many times do our hearts actually emulate that? Like, or are we just like, okay, gotta read this passage today so that way I can be like right with God. But it's not that we're worried about being right with God, it's that we're worried about checking the box. And like, I don't know, do you ever get stuck in those like where you know the works don't save you but you act? like they do.
And to your point, so the devotional I mentioned earlier, it being a daily thing definitely can put you in that. Like there's some days, and then like definitely I'm reading because, and there's a difference between want to and have to, you know, like, and there's some days I feel like I have to read, you know, and just because you don't necessarily have the energy and maybe you don't feel like you have the strength to read doesn't mean you feel like you have to, but like generally feeling like, oh, I have to read now, like, okay, like I guess I'll throw this in there, you know, but like more than not though, more often than not, the want to do it, you know. And Julie mentioned it one time. She was specifically talking about fasting, but just in general, if you have to say like I have to, or if there's something that's happening and you have to say, oh, I can't do that, I can't do that, like, is it because you like want to look as if you're doing this because you're trying to uphold an image, or is like your heart just not with that? Because there's a difference of how you approach stuff like that, you know.
Like, and to piggyback on top of that, like how many times do we like do stuff like fasting as an example, like doing it for because out of expectations, I guess. Like oh, I'm gonna fast this week because I want God to do something for me. And I was reading through, of all places, Reddit, like a Christian subreddit of just like people asking questions, and one of the questions I've got pulled up here is, and it just made me stop to think. It said, do you worship God because of what he did / does for you, or would you worship him regardless? And it's like we sang this song in junior church when I was a kid. Oh, how I love Jesus because he first loved me. And it's like is how often do we get into like a transactional thing where just like I'm gonna love Jesus today because I want him to give me something in return. I'm gonna fast today because I want him to give me something in return. These prosperity preachers, they'll be like, oh, give to the church today and you're gonna have fortunes tomorrow. And it's like we know like the head knowledge is there that we know that that's not the case.
Right.
But I don't know. Does that ever happen where like you're getting into like an expectation of a reward, and that's why you'll do something like fasting, for example?
I had this conversation yesterday, actually.
Really?
We had a Bible study. So now we have a Bible study now with the team, and we'll get that locked in. But awesome. A specific thing that we ended up talking about was, I want Jesus and. And one of my teammates was like, man, I need a girlfriend. You don't need a girlfriend. You need Jesus.
Yeah.
Right? Well, I need a girlfriend that loves Jesus. No. You don't need that either. You need Jesus. Well, we can need Jesus together. And I was like, yeah. Yeah. But it's like, but would you not love Jesus the same if you didn't get that girlfriend? You know, if you didn't get that job, if you didn't get that whatever XYZ fill in the blank, if all you had was Jesus, would you be still wanting to seek after him? You know? And I think that's like everybody has, and I say this all the time, but everybody, Philippians 4:13 is probably one of the most, I don't want to say taken out of context verses, but
it is.
But it is, you know. I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. And it's like, and I'm not saying like, you'll say even from the standpoint of athletes, I'm not saying that like you shouldn't feel like you can do something because you have God on your side. Yes, but context. Paul's in prison.
Yeah,
and he's saying, whether life is good, whether life is bad, whether I'm rich, whether I'm poor, whether I'm free, whether I'm in jail.
Come on.
Like, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me because I will be content in my situation.
Yeah.
Because I don't need anything else. He himself, and I don't mean to ramble, but it's like, we talked about Jesus walking on the water yesterday, and we talked about Paul getting out of the boat, right? So we as Christians, we've already gotten out of the boat. We believe in Jesus, right?
Right.
Keep in mind, there's a storm raging on, though. He says, call to me. Jesus says, Peter, come on. So Peter's walking to him, and then he notices, but then what does the Bible not say? It doesn't say the storm stopped when Peter started walking on the water towards Jesus. The storm didn't stop. The storm didn't cease.
Yeah.
He's walking. But as soon as he started to look around, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. Christ strengthens you. He's right in front of you. Keep your focus on him.
Yeah.
But you start looking at the things around you, like, and not even just the turmoil in life, like the things that may draw your focus off of them. Like how easy is it? We talked about it. You get a ding on the phone. How easy is it? You're reading. Next thing you know, you're scrolling. You was planning to get in a Bible study. Planning to getting your word. Now you scrolling on TikTok for 15 minutes. Just stuff like that.
Right.
So
very big on physical Bible, like flipping through pages. I know it's hard for people to understand books nowadays. Like we've got all these devices where we read off of and things, but physical Bible matters. That highlight, that underline, that little scribble, jot, whatever thought you have down. Pastor Clayton at the Crossing a couple weeks ago, he said a Bible that's falling apart usually belongs to a life that isn't. And it's just like, yes, and then I was like, yeah, preach, Pastor. And then I'm like, oh my goodness, mine's not really falling apart.
My Bible kind of look new.
Yeah, like there's still some pages that haven't been read yet. It's like, come on.
That's funny.
Yeah. So to kind of switch a little bit of topics, I made a video a while back talking about how I made a comment about like people like these mainstream like Christian influencers will like, or not even Christian influencers. I was talking about red pill creators where they're like, oh, these like just like macho men, like just like, yeah, the Bible tells me I can do this, that, and the other, and then they'll say things like the guy I'm referring to, I forget his name, but he's like I can have 10 wives or 10 baby mamas and be 10 times the man as you. Is like you don't even have a kid. I have kids with 10 women. I believe in family 10 times more than you do. And it's just like, and I made the comment that like the poison analogy, where it's just like rat poison isn't 100% poison, otherwise they wouldn't eat it. It's like, but it's like 90% or whatever it is, like 99% poison, but or 99% like good stuff that they want to eat. But then it's like that 1% of poison, and like scripture talks about a little leaven leavens the whole lump. And it's like you drop that little bit of poison, and everything else sort of becomes contaminated. And I meant to answer this question a while back. Somebody commented this question I'm about to read, and like I was going to get to it, but I was just like, I don't think I can tackle this on my own, and we can cut this because it's a big question,
right?
But I wanted to see if this is something you felt comfortable kind of just tearing apart, because I think there's value in saying that, like, I don't know, and just like talking about it. And
right.
So he said, quick question, just to see how you think some more after watching your video. So the history of Christians starts with the Orthodox Church, then the schism with the Catholics happened, then all the following schisms that result from the Holy Roman Empire, which lead to Lutherans and Protestants, etc. With that said, or with what you said with the mousetrap analogy about how 90% is good but the 10% is poison that kills, would you be willing to extrapolate that same thought process onto all the denominations? Like it's the 90% is the same, but it has been, goodness, I can't read, but it has been changed by man to the point that they now deem themselves a new, different Christian influenced by the word of man. So like, I'm not sure. Are you I guess, so do you go to Quincy Faith?
Yeah.
Like so are you, I guess Pentecostal would be where you?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
So I grew up Baptist, and like, um, the differences
Yeah.
this. I've been to Pentecostal church services, and they're a bit
Yeah.
different.
Yeah.
They're a bit different, and it's like, have you noticed throughout like the years like that 10% poison analogy? Do you think that that's possible, or like, have you noticed that in any certain like denominations that we should be like wary of? Not to trash a denomination,
Right.
but like just like that you've noticed in your walk. Like, have you seen that 10% poison that you feel like kills?
I'd say ultimately, like, I'd say that when you start talking about the 99%, the 1%,
Mm-hmm.
99% is what is the gospel being preached?
Mm.
You know?
Yeah.
If the gospel being preached is not contradictory to what Jesus said and what Jesus did, then cool,
Yeah.
right? It's the 1% that, like, aside from speaking in tongues, aside from
Yeah.
whatever music you listening to, aside from what you think about communion, aside from all that stuff, like, what is in there that you now have added to the gospel? Because a lot of that other stuff we talk about isn't a heaven or hell issue. Because I was reading about it in who said it? I know Paul said something about it, but he said the use for prophesying will be useless, and the use for speaking tongues at some point, gifts of the spirit will be useless because we'll be in heaven. Like, at no point will prophesying be a need. But it also said in the church that prophesying should be like, yes, speaking in tongues is a good thing. Prophesying is a good thing. But speaking in tongues for new people in church may scare them.
Yeah.
For you're speaking in tongues, but they have no idea what it means.
Mm-hmm.
So now you're speaking a language nobody in there knows what it means. But to prophesy means to speak of future things that will come to pass. Therefore, onlookers can see that God is with you, you know?
Yeah.
And ultimately, like, it doesn't say if you don't prophesy or if you don't speak in tongues, you're going to hell, right?
Yeah.
Now, if you want to sit here and say, okay, you're not operating maybe in the full gifts of the Spirit and all that, you know, like, if we want to get hung up on that, sure, not a heaven or hell issue.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I think that's the biggest thing to keep in mind. Like, if the gospel itself is not tainted, then we're good. But as soon as we start adding, okay, well, if you don't do this, you're going to hell. Okay, all right. You know?
Yeah. So I guess the answer to that, Evan, if you're watching this months later,
Yeah.
sorry for taking so long to respond, but I guess the answer to that I've kind of come to is that 1% poison is I wouldn't necessarily consider like a speaking in tongues thing like something that affects the gospel.
Right.
I wouldn't say that like growing up Baptist, like, we never had real wine for communion. Welch's grape juice. There's always that, and like I know of people who've been just kind of, happy 4th of July. It's not 4th of July. It's June 27th. This happens every night.
I sure was finna start ducking. I was like, wait a minute. Hold on now.
Oh.
Well, this guy goes crazy.
Yeah. They typically never go that long. Yeah. So, it'll end soon. There was one last night that was just really obnoxious.
Said love, joy, peace, patience. Patience.
Okay, we'll assume that it's done. But like the drinking, bar getting drunk. I don't think anybody considers drunkenness not a sin. But like the dancing, just like any sort of denominational issue, as far as I now if you go back to Catholicism, and you go back to you have to pay your indulgences and stuff like that. That becomes a gospel issue.
That's right.
Like that's where that 1% poison comes in, and that's why I think that the Catholic Protestant split was important. And if I think he mentioned, yeah, he meant Lutherans and Protestants, and I don't think there's like that much. As much as I've talked to Lutherans, I don't think there's that big of like a gospel issue gap. I could be wrong and just uneducated, but just with the few that I've talked to, like there are certainly like differences. Like the church that I go to now doesn't read catechisms to start off a service, but yeah, that percentage of poison analogy I guess would only really apply to gospel problems.
Yeah.
To the if you confess with your mouth that Jesus is Lord and believe in your heart that God raised him from the dead, you will be saved. As long as we agree on that fundamental thing, and not that you need to pay the Holy Roman Catholic Church
Like
money to get into heaven, I think that like we can have these denominational splits and still agree on the same thing. And so to I don't know how I'm going to transition this, but it's just going to have to happen. We're recording this right now during the first presidential debate. It is June 27th. It's really early for a presidential debate. And the Crossing actually just preached a whole sermon series on faith and politics.
right.
And I was really grateful for that sermon series because it was painted in a light that I was happy that it was being addressed in the church, because I'm not going to name any names, but I went to a place and this helped out with some worship stuff several states away. And
Several states away.
and
It's actually Missouri.
But there was a pastor at this event, I guess you could say, and we're expecting like a sort of like gospel centric message, and he goes up on stage and starts preaching about why you should vote Republican.
You're like, oh man.
And I'm like, ugh. And I wanted to hear kind of your thought, like how should Christians be acting right now? We are in a very weird, like just this is the weirdest that American politics has been in a very like I think ever. Like I'm not that old, so I don't have like real tangible evidence of when this time frame was around. But like I feel like you used to be able to sit across from somebody who voted a different way than you and still love them. And but now if I told somebody that I went and voted for Biden, then I would get like verbally assaulted depending on what state I'm in.
Right.
And then the inverse of that for if I went to California and was like, yeah, Trump, like they're just like, it's so polarizing now. And how are we as Christians, like, because I don't think that it's healthy to go up and on from the pulpit and tell people this is why you should vote for Donald Trump.
Right.
But I don't think it's intelligent to stay silent either, and I don't think it's healthy to do that. So like, what are your thoughts on that healthy balance between like there's a relationship between church and state. There is not a separation. There's never been a separation of church and state in this country. It's like ingrained in our Constitution, like God-given rights. But there's got to be a healthy balance to where like we got to still be able to love people. And so what is that? What does that look like?
So I got, I guess, 2 points. Maybe might cook. Let me cook.
Go for it.
One, we are called. There's 2 examples in the Bible. One in Acts, and then other one throughout the Gospels when John and Peter use that specific text for where they're at. But you give to Caesar what is Caesar's and give the Lord what is his, right?
Mm.
And there, John and Peter are in front of the council. They had just healed a man in the name of Jesus Christ, right? And they're like, you guys need to stop healing people and preaching about this Jesus guy. You need to stop. And they're like, we are called to be good citizens of the state. We are. But the kingdom of God trumps, no pun intended, all worldly government and kingdom, right? Yeah. Like the kingdom of God ultimately holds all authority. And then second point to that is we are expecting unrighteous men to make righteous decisions.
Yeah.
We have, and it's the issue with, we have a lot of people who are like, whoa, I'm voting Republican because we believe XYZ. I'm voting Democrat because we believe XYZ. Yeah. What does the Bible say?
Yeah.
Like, you're putting more faith in two guys who don't know you from what is they know you from Adam? Is that people say Adam? Yeah. Is that people say? Like, you vote for two guys that don't know you from Adam.
Yeah.
And you're putting more faith in them to make your life better.
Yeah.
And you ain't opened your Bible once this whole you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Talking about he's got your best interests at heart.
Yeah.
What are your best interests? We're so worried about, you want to talk about different sides, conservatives. We're so worried about keeping money and all this stuff. For the love of money is the root of all evil. Like, you want to talk about stuff like that.
Yeah.
But then you go left. You start talking about all this inclusion and all this other stuff. Yeah. Like, for God so loved the world, he gave his only begotten son, for whoever believeth in him, you know, shall not perish but have everlasting life. So understanding that we're people and that you're voting for people. They're fallen people just like you and I. So to put so much faith in them, understanding that, and still expecting your life to be, that is why the world is not at peace.
Yeah.
Like, if righteous men were making righteous decisions, we'd be chilling.
Yeah.
Like, nobody, you go through all, and it's funny because I used to say, like, to be a politician you have to be a good liar.
Yeah.
But like, you go through all of history. What president? You just look at the fruits of the spirit. What president exhibits all of those? You know? Like, to be in a, not to quote Kanye, but no one man can have all that power.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, power is reserved for the all-powerful, you know?
Yeah.
Like, the King of Kings, you know? The Lord of Lords, you know?
Right.
Like, and I think to be in that position and to not submit your will to God is just, what do you know? And once again, we vote for that.
Right.
Just like Israel wanted a king so bad.
Yeah.
Didn't
turn out too well.
And then now you're upset. You keep getting the king keep mistreating you.
Yeah.
Like.
Yeah.
Like it continually shows up.
Right.
You know? Like, we're not in this place because of who the president is. We're not. Yeah. We're in this place because of decisions we're all making and people we decide to put there and the intentions we have by what we're doing. You know?
Yeah. So something that I heard someone say that was just like a be all end all is we're not electing a pastor into our church, like make all these moral arguments. And first off, who are we to judge? But like that literally voting is inherently judgmental because we're judging between two people, or more. But we're not voting a new pastor to guide our church. Like we're so focused on the macro level of like who this president is, but and like this president's gonna send us to the end times. But it's like you're worried about that on a macro level, but where are we worried about it on a local level? Like, where are we worried about it in your church? Where are you worried about it in the community? Um, like like generally speaking, most people are not going to like, by the way that one person votes, it's not going to change society. It's not going to win more souls to Christ. But you could go out and instead of like making it your life's goal and your life's mission to be that guy at the Thanksgiving dinner table talking about uh, Biden Harris or Make America Great Again, like
Like,
I think we make a big mistake in culture about complaining about the leaders that we have. At the end of the day, society's chosen those leaders. It doesn't just like happen, and also God allowed them to be there. We forget that too. It's like they're there for a reason, and maybe like we're not immune to being judged from God. Just because nobody's writing about it in the Bible doesn't mean that like God's not displeased with the way like culture right now is awful. Like we live in a pagan culture, and as much as we like we'll like spout out statistics of like America's the most like the biggest religion in America is Christianity and all this stuff. It's like sure on a piece of paper, if you check off that you go to church every Christmas and Easter, sure, then we can be a big. But like in practice, we're more pagan. You're like just like Pastor Mark Driscoll. I don't know if you've ever heard of him, but he talks so much about like a Jezebelic spirit that is in culture today, and that's not gonna change just like by where we check a box on election day. That changes on a local level. I think we need to focus more on like building up like good family units and raising up a child in the way that he should go, instead of complaining that some child who wasn't raised in the way he should go is now making poor decisions for the rest of the country. And you mentioned a little bit. You mentioned like the left leaning side of the argument not like being all for inclusion and everything, and it reminded me Cliff Nechtel, I don't know how to Nechtel, whatever his last name is. He went on Logan Paul's podcast, and he was asked a question. He was asked by Logan. Logan said, "Isn't Christianity inherently uninclusive?" And I don't remember Cliff's answer to it, but I wanted to talk about that. Because from the outside looking in, I'm sure it does look uninclusive because like it really fundamentally it like if you're saying that a certain subset of the population is going to live eternally, and then the other people who don't, Logan used the word subscribe to that belief set, like they're all going to die eternally. Like that can be hard for people to sort of wrap their heads around. So what would be your response if you're evangelizing, right? And somebody says, I don't want to be a part of that uninclusive religion. What's your knee-jerk reaction? What's your response to that?
What is God ask you to do that you're so adamant about not doing? Like that's really it, because you can go to the whole semantics. Well, if he really loved us, why would he send us to hell? Didn't send us to hell.
Yeah,
doesn't.
Yeah,
you know.
Yeah,
like, well, like we can go around and round and round and round, but what is it that he explicitly says in there that you think you just can't subscribe to?
Yeah.
And oh well, your God did this and killed this. Like that means you inherently think that you have a better moral standard than God, and that just isn't.
Yeah,
like, that just isn't true.
Like where does morality even come from in the first place? Like I've been,
and that's a whole.
Yeah, I've been listening to this book, Evidence That Demands a Verdict. And like I'm like 2 hours into it because like I love audiobooks. I'm so spoiled with technology now because I can be at work and be listening to books. But then it touches on this in the book that's right there. I don't have enough faith to be an atheist. Just like the morality of it all. We make moral arguments all the time, and by we I mean like atheists.
Right.
We'll make moral arguments all the time without acknowledging where morality comes from. It's like,
How do you know it's wrong?
yeah.
I just know it's wrong. Why?
Mm. Yeah.
Because it hurts somebody. Why is hurting somebody wrong? I enjoy it. So why is it wrong? It hurts you, but I benefit from it, so why am I wrong?
Yeah.
Well, because you hurt another person. But why is that wrong? They can't answer that because there has to be a higher and pure and perfect moral standard to base that off of for it to be wrong.
Yeah.
So, but yeah. Yeah.
Putting yourself out there and choosing to follow that call. Matthew 28, I think it is the Great Commission.
2019, baby.
Yeah. Just like go into the world proclaiming the gospel. That's not a specific. That's not just like a like for this specific subset of people in Christianity. That's not like a speaking. That's not a speaking in tongues or any other spiritual gift where like certain people are gifted with this while others are that's not a gift, it's a command. Like we're all meant to do that. And I was thinking about FCA this past year, and you're kind of taking over those reins, and you and Megan are going to be spearheading that. I'm so sad I'm going to be gone for.
Don't even get me started on that. Don't even get me started on that.
So what? I've been fascinated with like the behind the scenes of ministries since I can imagine, since I can remember. Like, what does that look like? Have you guys started like the planning of getting FCA up and running in this fall semester, or like what does that look like?
So, no, no, not at all. But I don't want to say I'm getting a test run, but the Bible study I mentioned earlier. With the team, like started with like 3 guys, 5 guys, 6 guys. Like we've got 15 guys coming to Bible study now, and I've been given I've met with a few pastors from the Crossing that have given me this it's called this Discovery Bible Study basically, and it's just another way to go through the Bible. It's like it keeps you away from adding to the Bible, and it also keeps you away from taking away from the Bible. This is what it says. What is an example we can follow? What is a sin to avoid? What is a promise that is, and what is a command? Like simple stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I don't know who invented it. I don't know, but and I appreciate the pastors of the Crossing giving me that.
Yeah.
But I'll say like being able to use that with the team. That is definitely something I will, and bouncing ideas off of Megan as well. I'm not forgetting you, but bouncing ideas off her as well to be able to, maybe exactly off of how it is, but being able to mold that as well to better fit our FCA group. But so yes and no.
Yeah. So I'm not gonna be there, so I can't get in trouble for this opinion that I have. So
I can't get it.
So I was really,
I want to know something.
So I was talking to some people about this who were in the FCA last year,
Mm-hmm.
and we were talking about how it gets like my first times there, I was really just like disheartened by like okay, we're gonna read this passage, and then we're gonna have a question, and then we're gonna get like a minute and 30 seconds to answer the question, and then we've all got to like come back together, and like it would seem like the deeper conversations wouldn't start to happen until like if we had 2 minutes to answer it, then they wouldn't start happening until 2 minutes and 5 seconds. And then like the leaders are like, hey guys, come on, let's wrap it up. We gotta tell everybody what the answers were.
Right.
And it wasn't until the missions trip when I started to have conversations with people like Owen, and it's just like, oh, I've never read the Bible before. I've never heard about this Jesus guy. I'm only on this trip. I'm only here because my friends asked me to be here.
Crazy,
so like,
right?
so that like that just, I guess, like infant level scripture. While I felt like I wasn't being fulfilled by some of the conversations that we had, there was nothing more fulfilling than going to that trip and then getting to grow with people who had never heard the gospel before.
Mm-hmm.
People are like, oh, my dad told me I need to start like going to church and reading the Bible, but I never took it seriously. I'm only here because a couple of my buddies said that we could go here and the school's paying for it. I just thought it would be a cool trip. And like I don't know if this has been a concern for you, but I was thinking like on my high horse again, of course. Like a month into FCA, well, if I was running this, I would do it like this, that, and the other. And then I realized at the mission trip that like, okay, that entry level like talk about salvation, I already knew all that stuff, but it meant eternal life for somebody else. So, and especially just the nature of FCA, it's just like a group of athletes to come together and have a good community. So is that something that you think about trying to balance between that, like can we get into actual depth here, or do we have to focus on some of these people? This isn't like a Bible study with people at your church that you've been going to with for a while. This is like some of these people have never heard the name Jesus before, or if they have, it was taken in vain. And like, is that something that you think about at all in balancing that?
I think there's a happy medium with the two. I feel like for some, like, that have grown up in church, like have a decent grasp, have a better understanding on who Jesus is, who he was, and who he always will be, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then there's some that you're like they don't know Jesus from Adam,
Yeah.
like they don't know who we're talking about. But at the same time, being able to, and I want to use an analogy here, okay? But I think there's something to say about the childlike interest that those who have never heard it have, right? And why is it you always hear like you put food, like grandma used to put food in the crock pot, and this is a personal experience. Grandma used to put food in the crock pot, start cooking it Saturday. It's in the crock pot Saturday night, all Sunday morning, and we're eating that after church. That thing cooked forever, but the longer it cooked, the better it tasted.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like we couldn't have ate that 5 minutes after because it wouldn't have been the same. But I think there's something to say like, where do we lose that fire for because the word of God itself is enough. And I think sometimes we lose that because you brought it up, because and it's, and not even necessarily FCA, but just in general, like sometimes you're in places you're like, oh, okay, like it's a good Bible study, it's a good talk, but like the devil keep attacking me, man. Can we talk about that? Like, but at the same time, it's like the word is the word, and nothing needs to be taken away, nothing needs to be added.
Yeah.
Like the word should still have that touch on your heart, regardless of what season or what time or what level in your Christianity you are, because at the end of the day, it's the word of God. And that's another, going back to a question we had earlier, like how do you get to that position and just be grounded in that and just understanding that how sacred that is, that we have a Bible, like, and yeah, we may feel like we could maybe go in more depth with something, right? But sometimes you'll be surprised. You hover over that thing a good little while longer, and hey, man, I never even thought about salvation in this way. I never even thought about the crucifixion in this way. I never thought about him rising from the, like, simple stuff that you think is like, oh, I know this, like, but then it's like, oh man, like, I done let this simmer for 2 years. And it hits more now than it could have ever done before, right?
Yeah, because Scripture is alive, and like, I'm convinced if you keep looking at the same passage over and over again, you're gonna get something new out of it. And sometimes that something new out of it is like it doesn't come until you're like telling somebody else about it. Like that salvation thing is like, there was somebody, I forget his name. It was one of the first groups I was in, and he was like, we were going through Romans, and he was like, what does it mean that the wages of sin is death? And I was just like, because that's something like I grew up hearing. Like in a Baptist church, like we're taught hellfire and brimstone from the day we turned 6. Like that's something that I grew up with, and I thought he was joking at first, and I looked at him and I kind of smirked a little bit. I was like, "What?" And he the just sincerity in his eyes,
right?
Of just like, I'm going to die because I cheated on my math test. Like, that's enough that separates me.
Right.
I'm gonna die because I told my mom I rotated the laundry that I completely forgot to do, but I'm on my way to do it now. Like that little like surface level like I didn't kill anybody, but you're telling me that if somebody asks if I'm having a good day, and I'm like, yeah, but I'm dying, like that little like baby white lie, like that's enough to separate me. Like, what? And just hearing that from somebody, like, it scared me. And like made me remember, like, oh, like, I do much worse than this. Like the sins that he's fearful of that are gonna kill him. Like God says, if you hate somebody, then you've committed murder in your heart against it. And then like just like the things that like, okay, I've like in my heart I've killed people, and like, man, and then just to see the child, like you said, the response to the gospel message is something. It's something profound, and like, I guess thank you for taking up the rate, because it's not an easy job. Like, I thought about it my first couple of weeks. I was thinking like, okay, this would be easy, like especially with surface level gospel stuff. Like, yeah, we can do this. But the more I've thought about this, the more I've experienced it. Like in the mission trip, like that's a big cross to carry. Is that balance, that happy medium between, okay, here's the basic gospel stuff that you need to hear, but we also want to feed our other people that are here too. And so, man, I'll be praying for you. I'll be at basic training, slaving away. Hopefully, I can get to watch a sermon occasionally and touch base with you guys, and just see how it's going. Are you going to be staying? Like, are you going to be on the mission trip next year? Are you going to keep leading FCA after the fall semester?
Oh yes. So I'll be here. I'll be here in the spring. Yeah.
Okay.
So I'll be here. I got one more season.
Okay, so you're staying like the whole year.
And I'll be here the whole year.
Academics, or are you just?
Like... So yeah, play my last year, but I'll start my master's this fall too. So I'm a
QU.
Mm-hmm.
So you're doing your master's. So you're going to be here another 4 years.
Another like 2.5, 3.
Really?
Possibly.
Okay. That's
possibly. So
when I heard because it didn't register that you were graduating until I saw you walk across the stage. I was like,
wait a minute.
It's like, that guy is supposed to lead us next year. Where's he going? So you're going to be around. Is that FCA going to be the future, like throughout your master's program? Or?
Oh yeah.
Okay. Awesome.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's cool. Because so you're
And
gonna
I'll even have more time in the spring. I ain't got to worry about no game planning.
no,
I might be able to get up there and
yeah,
actually be in there for 2 hours.
yeah.
We'll see.
And I was just thinking about this, like you. So you're gonna be staying in this town for a while. It's not a negligible time period. Jonathan, your podcast co-host, is in Michigan.
Michigan.
And
Six,
so,
7 hours.
So like, do you guys have like a future plan for this? Like is there what is? Because I'm such a logistics nerd. Like, where does this? What does this look like for people who are tuning into It Gets Better? What can they expect in the next, let's just say, 6 months to a year?
So the original plan was that we were going to be making trips back and forth because he was originally supposed to be in Chicago, but some things happened. So now he'll be in Michigan.
Mm.
So the plan was, okay, we would drive, like meet halfway, do different things. Now he's a little further. So one thing that like we kind of started doing was just making videos on our own and posting them just to keep activity, on the page. And that, like, if we have something to share, like we don't got to wait 2 months maybe until we see each other next, share what it is, share what's been placed on your heart. But at the same time, like, we're definitely gonna have to figure out some logistics. Because, I mean, there'll definitely be time, like, will we get together. Now, how soon? I don't know. But at the same time, we will, Lord willing, something, happens. Whether it is, I think we kind of discussed, like, maybe he brings somebody on over there, I bring somebody on over here, and we just kind of,
that would be cool.
just to keep it, like, keep conversations flowing. Because at the end of the day, like, it's just conversating.
Yeah,
that's what the idea was.
Yeah,
we put a camera up. We're just those are the conversations we had 2 weeks, 3 weeks prior to even putting the camera up. All we did was put the camera up and hold some microphones. That was it. So just understanding that, like, letting God use us in whatever way, like, possible, and whether it be, we got to drive back and forth to make it happen.
It's a hike.
Or we Zoom call and record whatever the case may be. Like, heart's in the right place, and we're willing. Like, the Lord can use anything. So
seek first the kingdom, and everything else will be added.
Everything else will be added.
One more question before we wrap this up. A little bit of a fun one. For those of you who are not from where we're from, it's a very small town. There are not a lot of food spots here. It's like 80% Tex-Mex, 20% chain fast food, and not a lot at that. If you could add one restaurant to Quincy, Illinois, what would it be?
Oh, add one?
Yeah, the one that we don't have at the current moment.
You may disagree.
Oh, my.
You may disagree.
Uh-oh.
Because of the bad experience you may have had on the way to Alabama.
Zaxby's? That's a crazy. I thought you were about to say Wingstop because we talked about Wingstop.
See, I didn't. Zaxby's or Wingstop?
They're both.
I gotta say,
never had a good experience on Wingstop.
I gotta say Wingstop. I gotta say Wingstop.
Really? Okay.
Got you.
Because there are talks that they might add a Chick-fil-A over on like.
See, but I don't want no.
You don't want
Wingstop. See, the Wingstop you go to have flies in there, flying around, and did they,
That's not a good thing.
That's a good thing.
That's like.
You see them drop a. You see them drop a bowl on the ground back there.
What?
You ever seen them drop a bowl on the ground when they was making your? See, that's how I know it wasn't good. You ain't go to the good spot. I want to see them pick up one of my wings off the floor.
I saw flies at the Taco Bell down on whatever.
See, that's different though. That's different.
I saw flies at the Taco Bell, and then they had a health inspection. They had to change all new management because they were terrible.
See, Taco Bell and Wingstop, that's two different things. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? You know,
Like I've never been to a Wingstop and had them complete the order on time.
but that's the beauty of it.
That's the beauty of you and
That's
I have two different definitions of
That's
beauty.
the beauty, man. I'm telling you.
I don't know.
Waiting for that, just on the verge of you wanting to jump over the counter and the chicken comes out.
I've never seen people more disinterested in finishing your food than the people that work at Wingstop. Like they're almost offended that you're there to give them money. Like they're almost offended that you buying those wings is what is paying them.
And I love it.
Okay.
And I love it.
To each their own.
Them fries, man. It's some about a Wingstop worker with some attitude. It's something about them. That's how I know my wings finna be good. I know. I'm telling you. I need a flyer too. And if Wingstop, if you watch this, I ain't slandering, but if some wings would be nice. Just shouted you out.
He said, throw the sponsor.
I got a blank shirt on. Just Wingstop. Come on.
Man, appreciate you coming over today.
Appreciate
having this
you.
conversation. Where can people find you across socials between It Gets Better and just wherever you are posting content? Where can people find you?
See, now you're gonna make me open because I don't even know my daggone. So, Joseph Webb __ is my personal page, and then the podcast page is the IGB Podcast. That's it. The IGB Podcast.
The IGB Podcast.
Yeah.
It Gets Better.
It gets better, baby.
And of course, we'll link those in the description. Yep, that's pretty much it for this week's episode. Thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you for coming back after we took a little bit of a hiatus, getting everything situated and kind of re-envisioning what this is going to be. If you have any questions, I pulled up a question just for content's sake out of Reddit. So if you have any questions, be sure to drop them below in the comments, and we'll be back next week. Take it easy.